What if Portugal win the World Cup? We're not talking about a team full of stars. This is going to be the most terrifying Portugal you've ever seen.
Our team are in this moment in a great shape, balance with young players and with the best player in the world. We feel that maybe it's our time also.
The team with a man who just shattered the Premier League assist record.
Here is Bruno Fernandes' corner, whipped in, header off the bar and in! And Bruno Fernandes writes his name in the history books!
A midfielder with top ratings, not only in League One, but across the Champions League as well. Alongside him, a 21-year-old tempo controller carrying the pedigree of a European champion, heavily pursued by some of the biggest clubs in the world. Together with one of the best defensive duos in world football today.
Repasse par Nuno Mendes qui a éliminé facilement à son tour. Bien joué de la part de Nuno Mendes qui gagne des mètres et qui sonne la révolte parisienne. Premier carton sûrement.
It's out here to Cancelo. Cancelo's delivering an interesting angle. Barca have scored again. Just a single goal in it now.
And standing at the centre of all that glory, the greatest goalscorer in history. Entering his 6th World Cup at the age of 41, he is giving everything he has for the final moments of the longest and most enduring international career in modern football history.
Here, Angelo. Lovely little pass as well from Ali Al Hassan. This is Al Bouchal. Ronaldo! Sensational! The legend does it again!
60 long years since the days of Eusebio and Portugal's third-place finish at the 1966 World Cup, the nation has never once reached the summit of world football. 6 decades of painful waiting, and now, perhaps this very squad is the ultimate answer.
It's simply insane when you go in every line.
Get ready, because Seleção das Quinas is coming.
Put the font on the bottom, Dunlop, semicolon, Portugal are winning the World Cup.
The fatal detail opponents often overlook about Portugal is their squad depth. Rather than relying on iconic names to carry the burden, their strength this year lies in a structure that depends on no single individual. Portugal today is a true multi-layered machine, where even if any one layer is removed, the next is more than capable of stepping into battle and continuing the fight. When you look at Portugal right now, the spotlight has to fall on midfield, the most frightening engine room of this tournament. One analyst put it bluntly before the competition. My favourites this year are Portugal. They have the best midfield, Vitinha, Neves and Bruno. Bruno Fernandes is living proof that such a statement is completely immune to accusations of exaggeration. During the 2025-26 season, he turned the Premier League into his personal stage, recording 9 goals and 21 assists for Manchester United and walking away with the Best Player of the Season award.
An individual award, but it comes because we had a very good season together. Without your help, obviously this wasn't possible. You guys can imagine that I'm very proud and very happy to get this.
At a time when the entire Premier League doubted Manchester United's chances of securing a Champions League spot, Bruno single-handedly dragged the team forward with 30 goal contributions, turning what seemed impossible into reality.
Wherever Bruno plays, he's going to be the top assister. It doesn't matter who else comes in.
1 touch, 2 touch, perfect. And he knows the next pass. You see him scanning, he knows what players are doing, and he's not just that, look, he's got delivery as well. And the key thing is that passion. They made him captain because he's got that passion. And that is vital for any Manchester United. And I've seen him do that so many times in train and look, and the passion that he's got. Once too much at times, once he controls that, he's great delivery. He's just an all-round, very good player.
But Bruno Fernandes is only the tip of the iceberg. Portugal's terrifying depth truly reveals itself in the next layer, João Neves. At just 21 years old, after arriving at PSG for €60 million, Neves quickly collected back Champions League titles and established himself as the midfield metronome of the Kings of Europe. The confidence of a 21-year-old was perfectly illustrated by a hat-trick against Toulouse in League One, including improvised bicycle kick wonder goal. And remember this, he's only 21 years old and already conducting the midfield of the reigning Champions League winners. And right beside Neves stands Vitinha, the UCL Player of the Final. But that's not where it ends. He also finished with the highest rating in all of League One, according to SofaScore. If midfield is the engine, then their attack is the weapon of mass destruction. Leading the charge is none other than Rafael Leao, a 1.88 m giant at the age of 26.
I'm the one and only, there's no way I'll back down. I'm the one you watch and you know I make it big. Sticking with the flock till I take another swing.
The scary part is that even during a season heavily criticised for inconsistency and underperformance at AC Milan, he still quietly finished as the club's top scorer with 9 goals and 3 assists in Serie A. More importantly, his shooting accuracy remained in the 95th percentile across the entire league. In other words, even in a season where people claimed he was playing badly, Leao was still a more clinical and dangerous finisher than 95% of the forwards competing in Italy. And if an out-of-form Rafael Leao still isn't enough to keep opponents awake at night, just look at their bench. Pedro Neto, Francisco Conceição, João Felix, and Gonçalo Ramos. The depth is so absurd that this bench alone could comfortably serve as the starting 11 for most nations at the World Cup. Portugal this year is absolutely not a one-dimensional team. They are not arriving at the tournament with only a plan A. They already possess plans A, B, C, and even D. And the crazy part is that all 4 tactical options are equally lethal.
They're dangerous. Listen, every single position on this field is filled with talent. You've got then talented youngsters who will float around and potentially try to get into that starting 11.
Take a step further back, and you'll find a defensive line that has already proven itself on football's most brutal stages. A truly Champions League-tested system. At its heart is Ruben Dias, a world-class name that needs no introduction. Alongside him is Gonçalo Inácio, a quiet, reliable presence who is rapidly emerging as one of Europe's best centre-backs. And on the flank, Nuno Mendes has been so explosive that football analyst Didier Domi went as far as declaring on beIN Sports in March 2026.
He's the best left back in the world. When I look at all the big teams in Europe, City, Bayern, or Real Madrid, or Liverpool, or Arsenal, I don't think there is nobody better than him at the moment. And there is things that you very difficult to defend against. There is 2. First one is dribble, the other one is speed. And he's got speed and power. And he really improved. And I was very surprised, in the quality of his deliveries. And the quality of what he's doing sometime in the last third. So he's a fantastic asset.
Not only did the praise keep coming, but UEFA Champions League itself once described Menz as a left-back, granted a license to operate as auxiliary wingers and midfielders. Nuno Mendes is not just a defender, he is also an explosive attacking weapon, a highly unpredictable third winger in a team that has just conquered the Champions League. Portugal's frightening strength is reflected in the overall numbers. 7 stars competing in the Premier League, 4 key players from PSG, the back-to-back UCL champions, and they enter the tournament as the reigning 2025 Nations League champion. Even though Opta's supercomputer, after running 25,000 simulations, ranks Portugal only 5th in the tournament with a 7% chance of winning it all. That figure may sound modest, but think back to the 2022 World Cup. Morocco quietly marched all the way to the semi-finals, despite having less than a 1% chance, according to pre-tournament projections. After all, football is a game played by humans, and it has never operated solely on dry probability figures. But before we open the biggest what-if question of the tournament, there is one crucial detail about this national team that you absolutely need to know. When Roberto Martinez officially announced his squad on May 19th, 2026, he delivered a statement that carried tremendous weight.
Eu acho que é a nossa força, é a nossa alegria. Eu falei que na vida todos temos momentos muito difíceis. Perder o Diogo Jota foi momento inesquecível e momento muito difícil, mas o dia a seguir foi uma responsabilidade para todos nós de lutar pelo sonho do Diogo Jota e pelo exemplo que ele sempre foi com a nossa seleção. Então, o espírito, a força, o exemplo do Diogo Jota é o mais e vai ser o mais para sempre.
That name was Diogo Jota. The 28-year-old forward tragically passed away last July following a devastating car accident in Spain. As it turns out, Portugal are not entering this tournament simply to chase a trophy. They are fighting for a teammate who is no longer here to witness it. And only when you uncover that emotional wound do you truly understand why Vitinha made such a cryptic statement before the tournament. I hope we win the World Cup with him, and for him. That him was never meant to refer solely to Cristiano Ronaldo. With the context now established, an ultra-competitive squad carrying a deeply emotional story enters the tournament. They navigate through Group K alongside Congo, Uzbekistan and Colombia, a challenge that is far from easy, yet entirely manageable for a team of this quality. Then, from the knockout stage onward, they march all the way to the final. If they truly manage to do that, what happens next? First of all, it would prove that Portugal is no longer Ronaldo's team, a legacy far greater and more meaningful than any individual. Ever since his debut in 2004, the football world has constantly asked the same question. Who will carry the national team after the CR7 era ends?
Yes, there could be certain parts of his game that aren't as explosive as, say, we saw 10, 15, 20 years ago. But if the ball's dropping to somebody in the box, who do you want to be taking that shot? Even to this day, it's still probably Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yet if they lift the trophy in 2026, with Bruno Fernandes orchestrating the play, Navish controlling the tempo, and Leao terrorising defender flank, the answer will reveal itself naturally. There will be no need for a post-Ronaldo era narrative. This is a generation that grew alongside him, and learned how to rise above on its own when the defining moments arrived. Portugal would officially establish itself as a football nation built on generational depth rather than a team endlessly waiting for its greatest star to retire. Their Nations League triumph over Spain, the Euro 2024 champion, in a nerve-shredding penalty shootout is the clearest evidence of that reality. That achievement completely dismisses any argument about luck and firmly confirms the mentality of a team that consistently knows how to deliver on the biggest stages.
They show pure class, they show so much talent. Portugal, a team that is now maturing towards that World Cup next year. Everybody bought into that phenomenon.
Beyond that, the next chapter of Portuguese football will belong to João Neves and an explosive Gen Z core. Zoom in on the 21-year-old midfielder. If he lifts the 2026 World Cup trophy, Neves will become a world champion at 21, immediately after already winning the Champions League at 20. With a long-term contract at PSG until 2029 and a market value reaching €140 million, he represents the foundation of the national team for at least the next decade. More importantly, Neves is far from alone on this journey. Around him stands a 23-year-old Nuno Mendes, who has already tasted UCL glory, a 26-year-old Leao entering the peak years of his career, and talented players such as Conceição, Ramos and Gonçalo Inácio, who are all still under 27. At this rate, Portugal in 2030 could be even more dangerous than the 2026 version, and this World Cup triumph would merely be the opening shot of a new era of dominance. Finally, and most importantly, this is where we return to Ronaldo and the defining question of his career. After 22 matches across 5 World Cups and 8 goals, he has still never experienced the atmosphere of a World Cup final. He has conquered almost every pinnacle the sport can offer. The Euro, the Nations League, a collection of Champions League trophies, and an unprecedented record of 143 international goals. His career resume stands like a mountain so immense that future generations may never come close to reaching it. Yet on the eve of Qatar 2022, he made a remarkably bold statement that very few players in his position would ever dare to make.
Pensar com calma, pensar o primeiro jogo contra o Ghana, que é o mais importante, para ganhar confiança, e a partir daí vendo o que vai acontecendo. Mas, para ganhar a competição, temos que ser os melhores. E se acreditamos que somos os melhores, temos que mostrar dentro de campo. Fácil.
A man who has scored nearly 1,000 career goals was willing to trade all of it away, ready to let go of every personal accolade in exchange for victory for Portugal. But the cruel reality named Morocco shattered that dream. On the night Portugal were eliminated, the image of Ronaldo slowly walking into the tunnel in tears was so heartbreaking that even today, few people can bring themselves to watch that moment again. Now at 41 years old, and entering the 6th World Cup of his career, he is still standing there despite all the farewell articles that had already been written for him back in 2022. If Portugal truly become world champions, Ronaldo's story will no longer be about goals. It will become the perfect final chapter of a man who never accepted stopping until there was simply no reason left to continue. So, is this scenario realistic? While Opta's supercomputer gives Portugal only a 7% chance of winning the tournament, and Jamie Carragher has confidently placed France in the final. Remember how many times experts have been wrong at major international competitions. What we know for certain about Portugal in 2026 is that they possess an incredibly frightening foundation. Arguably the best midfield in the tournament with Vitinha, Neves and Bruno Fernandes. A versatile attack capable of breaking opponents apart in countless ways. A Nuno Mendes on the left flank, widely recognised as the best in the world, and a massive psychological boost after defeating Spain to win the Nations League. Their only real weakness lies in the eternal question: can this star-studded squad maintain consistency across 7 consecutive matches? Because at a ruthless tournament like the World Cup, one bad day is all it takes for every dream to come crashing down. To conclude, Portugal are not arriving at this World Cup to prove that Ronaldo is great. That status was cemented 2 decades ago. They are here to prove that everything this team has spent years building, from the Nations League trophy to the unforgettable Champions League nights of Neves and Vitinha in Paris, and every goal-scoring dance performed by Leo in Milan, has finally matured enough to place them on top of the world. Once they achieve that, the story of Portuguese football will not end when Ronaldo walks off the pitch for the final time. On the contrary, that is precisely when a new era will truly begin. If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.